Well, greetings, test takers. This is Dean Tenney. I'm coming to my studio here in fabulous Las Vegas. This is going to be put in the Series 4 Registered Option Principle playlist, Series 9 Sales Supervisor playlist, as well as Series 7. As sales supervisors and registered option principles, we love spreads because all the action takes place between the strikes. The whole point of a spread is we're saying we only want to play between, those two strike prices. And that means the point of a spread for us as supervisors is that it lowers risk, which is always for us a good kind of a suitability thing to be able to do. I'll probably link to my advanced options lecture. It also makes margin requirements go poof in terms of tens of thousands of dollars to do a naked call or a naked put. The credit call spread and credit put spread are going to be a lot better, a lot mellower in terms of the margin requirement, because again, it's just going to be the risk. Now for Series 7s, the reason I am making this little carve out from my advanced options narrative lecture, which I'll either link to that or Don't Hate the 8, which is a little 8 things you got to know about a spread, is that people continue to on debrief say they got asked about identifying spreads that don't have any premiums. And, even though we cover that elsewhere, I thought I'd cover that today. So that's the point of today's topic. So let's get busy here. Let's get busy. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is trying to identify the spread as either being a vertical, horizontal, or diagonal spread with missing premium. So that's the key thing we're trying to accomplish here. So this is called an exhibit. Exhibits, we want to embrace exhibits because when we're looking at an exhibit, we know that somehow, some way, the answer is available to us. We're looking here at a screen, a quote screen for an options, what we call a chain. And you see the cycles on top, again, not testable. As we look at this exhibit and we look over here at the 40 calls, 45 calls, 50 calls, let's start with that January 40 call. From the long perspective, a choice to buy at 40 is going to be more desirable than a choice to buy at 50. So I would expect I'm going to have to pay more for a choice to buy at 40. From the short perspective, if you'd like me to be obliged to deliver the stock at 40, I'm going to want more premium than if you want me to agree to deliver the stock at 50. It's more likely I'm going to be a potential victim at 40 than I'm going to be a potential victim at 50. So regardless of the market price of the stock, that 40 call is going to have, let's just get out our allocation tool, is always going to have a greater premium. So let's just put that in here. Come on. There we go. So, what we really want to be able to know here is that lower strike call contracts always have greater premiums. Now, I just illustrated why, but who cares about the why? So as we're looking at this screen here, I'm just trying, let me get a smaller font for it. I'm sorry, I'm taking a valuable time here, but I want to make sure I got it. There we go. Lower strike calls always have greater premiums. So as we're looking at this here, as we look at the 50 call, we know that that's going to have a lower premium. In fact, of the 3 strikes we're looking at, 40, 45, and 50, this is going to have the lowest premium. We don't know what the numbers are. That's the point, right? The premiums are missing here. But the 45 call would be somewhere in between there. So as we look at this, we can determine that if we're going to spread, because remember what a spread is the difference in the strikes. And if we're going to spread the difference in those two premiums, or the difference between the 40 call with the greater premium, the 50 call with the lowest premium, the way we're going to determine whether it's a debit or credit is whether we bought or sold, right? So if we went bought, a different color here, if we buy the 40 and we sell the 50, we would know that this is a vertical or price spread. That's what I usually show most of in the lectures because that's the most likely thing you're going to see. But we should be able to determine this is a debit spread because the 40 call premium is going to be larger than the 50 call. So that would be a debit call spread. We know that the larger premium always dominates the position. So when we're trying to figure out what's going on, so a couple ways to go here. With the dominant leg, not testable, the dominant leg is the 40 call, which I'm long, and this would be a bullish spread. This would be a debit call spread, and it would be bullish. As I said, as a supervisor, I love this, and the reason I love this is that I think about it. What Dean thinks about things isn't testable, but I like to think of it being about a floor and a ceiling. Options are about floors and ceilings, and there's a floor here at 40. And there's a ceiling here at 50. And that's why that's called a vertical or price spread, by the way, because that's how it lines up in terms of my things. Both 40 or lower contracts expire, 50 or higher, both contracts get exercised, that would be 10 points. So that's all the action takes place between the strikes. Now, if we were to do this, so let's say now we sell this one and we buy this one, this contract. We should be able to determine now that that is a credit spread because we received more for the 40 than we paid for the 50. Again, the larger premium dominates, and that's being short the 40 call. And so this would be a credit call spread, which is bearish. By the way, we can do a lot of other things in terms of the 8 things we're held accountable for. Once I've determined, credit, I know I want the contracts to expire. I want the difference in these premiums. Premiums are missing, but whatever that difference is to get smaller or narrow is the way we say that. I know the gain and loss is somewhere between 40 and 50, and that the gain and loss equals 10 points. So there's a lot of potential questions you can ask once you identify it. And remember, the challenge is that people are saying they're, debrief having a challenge identifying the spread with missing premium. So this would be a vertical or price spread. As I said, that's the most common one you're going to see on Series 7. As I said, supervisor, we love spreads because, again, this idea that all the action is taking place between the floors and the ceilings here. All right, let's get rid of this, get rid of that, get rid of that. We'll get rid of that. Okay, so now let's look at the January, April, July, not testable, that's the cycle there. And we're looking at the 50 call. And we know that the second thing we want to make note of is that longer term option contracts always have greater premiums. So let's make a note there. I like to do it from either perspective, right? So from the long perspective, when you buy an option position, you're either buying volatility or selling volatility. When you buy volatility, you need movement. Movement is your friend. You're either, buying upward volatility or downward volatility. And, you got to be right about 3 things, direction, how far, and timing. Keyword timing. So the longer you have to be right, the more likely it is you're going to be right from the long perspective. And so you want a longer time frame for that volatility to work in your favor, you're going to have to pay a greater premium. I could do it from either side. You know, if I'm short the option contract, if I'm a potential victim and I have an obligation, the longer you want me to be obliged, the more I'm going to charge you. Now, whether or not you understood that discussion or not, the key takeaway is the longer term option contracts always have greater premiums. So as we're looking here at the January, we're now looking at these 50 calls, and we're looking at the January, the April, and the July. And so as we look at these contracts, we would know, again, missing premiums, doesn't matter that it's missing premiums, we would know that the July 50 call is going to have a greater premium than the January. So we're looking at only 3 months here, but of the 3 months we're looking, this is called an exhibit. And, you know, in the art of test writing or psychometrics, we call exhibits. And, you know, you should like an exhibit as a test taker. Anyways, that has the greatest premium. I want to just fix that. Greater premium. On the 3 we're looking, I'm just going to say greatest of the 3 we're looking. So I'm just going to clean that up and say of the ones we're looking at the 50 calls, this is going to have the greatest premium because it's a little longer term. And of the 3 we're looking at, this one is going to have the lowest premium. Now, as you can see, as this lines up on the exhibit here, this is why this is called a horizontal spread. Horizontal because we were looking at a quote screen with an option chain. It would look like something like this. You know, I'm simplifying, but it will look like something like this on our quote screen. So hence, you know, vertical, and now we're looking at a horizontal. Now, again, depending on whether we bought or sold it, you know, if we, you know, sell this one, for example, credit, and we buy this one, that's going to be a credit spread, right? Because I'm going to have more money in than out. That's a horizontal spread, also known, not surprisingly, as a counter spread, right? Because what's different here is the months. And vice versa. If I buy this one and I sell this one. Now, be a little careful here, just series 4s and series 9s. Be a little careful on a credit counter spread. Because, you know, here, if I got a July call and I'm obliged to the July, I only have the January. I've got a couple months, what, 6 months there or something, where I got a naked call. So just, you know, I'm not going to make you get in the weeds at 7, 4, or 9. I'm just saying, you know, just, you know, check it quickly just to make sure that, you know, the person doesn't end up in January expiration. Maybe we go April or May or June or something. But yeah, that would be a little problematic. But for our point today, it's a credit spread because we got more money in than out. So again, the point here is we can still identify these even if they're missing the premiums. All right, so the last one would be a diagonal spread. As you can already kind of see, diagonal looks something like this, right? In terms of the screen we're looking at. So, you know, maybe I buy the January 40 and I sell July 50. And again, we're missing premiums, but as you can see, the way it lines up on the quote screen is diagonal. So that would be when the strikes and the months are different. When the strikes and the months are different. So that would be a diagonal spread. All right, so let's go to, I have a bonus I forgot to tell you. I meant to tell you a teaser that I have a bonus at the end of the lecture. Well, if you made it this far in the lecture, you now know there's a bonus coming. So, okay, so. Okay, so let's look at some puts here. Let's look at some puts. Let me clean up my slide here. So again, the idea here is, can we identify the spread as either a vertical, horizontal, or a diagonal spread? So that's the point with missing premiums, because that's what people are saying sometimes they struggle with. So now if we're looking at these puts here, the put contracts, we should know that if I want a choice to sell, I can do it from either perspective again. If I want a choice to sell at 50, that's going to cost me more than a choice to sell at 40. It's more desirable, right? You know, here I want it to go down and it's easier for it to go below 50 than it is 40. From the short perspective, if you want me to be obliged to buy at 50, be a potential victim at 50, I'm going to want more than the 40. Now, we said as supervisors, 4s and 9s, we like this again, because we're just going to look at the 40 and the 50 is what we're looking here in this exhibit, in this quote screen, this option chain. As I said, one thing we love about spreads as a supervisors, we have a ceiling here at 50. We're going to do a vertical spread first. And we have a floor here at 50 or 40. Now, without the spread, the floor would be, 0. So again, I think the way I like to think about is we're playing between the strikes. All the action takes place between the strikes. So what we need to know is that, again, I just illustrated it, whether you got it or not, is that higher strike puts always have greater premiums. And as we said, the greater premium dominates. So just real quickly, if we go back to our call spread, the 40 call is always going to be the dominant leg. So one thing you can do on options that are missing premiums is just if it's a call spread, the lower strike is always going to be dominant. And if it's a put spread we're working on now, it's always going to be the higher strike that is dominant. So again, let's just put that in here. If we look at these two premiums, we're looking on January's, the 50 is going to have a greater premium. And of the three we're looking at, we're only looking at 3, so greater. In other words, what I mean by that is the 55 would be greater, 60 greater still, but we're just trying to look at the 2 because that's what's going to be on the test, right? They're not going to show you a gazillion of those. So I'm just going to say that of the ones we're looking at, the 3 strikes, this one is going to have the greatest premium. And this one is going to have the lowest premium of the 3 we're looking at. And so now we know it's a vertical or price spread, all the actions taking place between 50 and 40. We know the break even somewhere between 50 and 40. We know the gain and loss equals 10 points. We know lots of things. Again, I'll link to my advanced options lecture. That's not what this little carve out is about. This little carve out, I call my smaller lecture carve outs. We're carving out from a larger topic, a smaller topic. And that's what this is about. So now we can look at this and say, okay, well, if we buy this one or go long that one and we sell this one, we would know that, again, that would be a debit put spread. And we know the larger premium dominates, that would be a bearish. Again, a common mistake. I don't know if I should type down mistakes. Debit put spread, which is bearish. Debit doesn't mean bullish. You got to do that separately. But anyways, that would be a debit. Because again, the 50 would cost us more than the 40. However, a very smart customer, again, this isn't the options lecture, narrative lecture, but now somebody's, here I'm lowering my out-of-pocket cost, right? So, or the other version of this is I sell this one, I go short that one, and I buy this one. And now I would know that that's going to be a credit put spread. Again, larger premium dominates. And so my obligation to buy at 50, at least though somebody sticks it to me at 50, I can stick to the next guy at 40. So that's what we said is 4s and 9s. We love spreads because, the action's all between the strikes. So again, if we were looking at this, and we had something that looked like this, need a bigger. Right, that would be a horizontal or calendar spread. And if we were looking at something that went like this in terms of that would be a diagonal spread. And again, they're called diagonal because that's how they set up on the quote machine that I'm showing you here, right? So the quote's great. So we have vertical, we have horizontal, also known as time spreads. Verticals are also known as price spreads. Vertical price spreads. We have horizontal calendar spreads, and then we have diagonal spreads where both the strike and the month is different. And the point of this little carve out is to be able to do that without the premiums. If you'd like, put in the comment section, and I'll go back and throw in a couple premiums here. We can play around with this some more in terms of actually seeing the numbers. But here, where the point is, without the numbers, can we still identify the spread as being vertical, horizontal, or diagonal? Okay, well, I promised a bonus at the end of the lecture, and here's the bonus. This is just a trick, but it's a great spread trick I'd like to share with you as a bonus. And let me get out the thing. Bulls, you can have a trick here that you can determine whether any spread is bullish or bearish if it's missing the premium with this trick. And the trick is because you are long the lower strike. In any spread, if you are long the lower strike, you are a bull. It doesn't matter whether it's a debit or credit or, doesn't matter. That's why the trick is kind of nifty. It works for all spreads. So bull stands for because you are long the lower strike. In any spread, if you are long the lower strike, you are a bull. So even if you're missing premiums and you didn't like the exhibits I just showed you, you could use the bull's trick for that. Okay, well, I hope you found the lecture helpful. Our normal release upload schedule is Tuesdays. So this will be on the upload schedule for Premiere on Tuesday. Feel free in the meantime, if you have questions or comments, I think you can do that in the chat before the Premiere. And then we also do our weekly community live stream on Tuesdays, 5:30 from Las Vegas. Thank you, and hope to see you for a future lecture.